Hey, how's it going? Looks like we made it to yet another Wednesday. I hope everyone had a very good week. This is part 5. Hey, how's it going? Let me go ahead and kill the sound so we don't have an echo. That would not be good. I hope everyone is not watching any kind of conventions or anything like that going on. To me, politics are extremely boring. Art is exciting. So I really hope that you're going to be here and watching this part 5 together with me. I don't see anybody here yet, but it's all good. I will paint if nobody is here. So that doesn't matter. Hey John, how's it going? Happy Wednesday to you, John, and to you, Steve. The piece, Steve, came out absolutely positively amazing. So great job, sir. I'm excited about it. So, John, it's always good to see you as well, my friend. So, here we are with part 5. And let's see. Sound good? Everything good so far, guys? I hope. Willie, there you are. How you doing, my friend? Always good to see you, sir. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching you, Steve, work with those inks, man. That was just great, and what an honor. What I'm going to do is use the Pure Ref software. I don't know if you guys have that program, but please go get it. It's going to make your life a lot easier as artists if you work on a PC with a large monitor. Very good. It's always up on top, you know. Yeah, that was some motorcycle, John. That was just fantastic. And let's see. So, here we go, Amy Lee. And so this is going to be the final installment of Amy Lee, which is really very exciting. You know, I had a lot of fun painting this particular piece. Today I spent the day basically, today making and sending out inks. So that was my job today, which is not bad. I'm happy about that. I love providing inks to my people here in the United States and internationally, and it's just so exciting to see what everyone is doing with them, and that makes me happy. It's just really cool. So I really enjoy that aspect of supplying the supplies as well. You know, I think it's great when artists come out with products because, you know, as we artists, we know day to day what works and what doesn't. So it's nice to see that a lot of artists, not just myself, are selling products. And oh, on that motorcycle, Steve Leahy is doing an auction, like a bidding auction on that, and I believe right now it's at $250. Is that correct, Steve? Which is exciting. So this one I have, I would say, the medium mixture right now I'm working with. So what I want to do now is I want to pretty much soften up the hair, give more atmosphere to her hair here. That's what I want to do before I go back in and model the forms again. You know, you always want to how do you say, you always want to get reacclimated when you first come back to working in a piece. You know, like let's say first thing in the morning or when you start painting. I am going to clean off my glasses because it looks like I am in a fog, so that's not good. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Need a new pair of glasses. Has anyone at the Airbrush ever had like your glass lens ever get beat up because of airbrushing to the point where it's not actually as clear as it should even when you do clear it off? Has anyone had that happen to them? I think it's happening to me as we speak. That's why I definitely need a new pair of glasses. So we want to work on these like really fine hairs here, and I really love doing it. I mean, I like, don't get me wrong, I like stencil, you know, freehand shields and stuff, but it's always that goal of just doing it yourself, right? I mean, that's how that aim, right? You want to get that aim down. There's some hard edges here, so this is where aim actually comes in. You want to, so if you want to get rid of a hard edge that's left, either it be a pencil line or what have you, concentrate on your aim and go right next to it. I think that, oh, not from airbrushing, I see. And now, what was the main cause of, you know, messing with the lenses there, Willie? So I got a surprise for you guys today, which is really neat. It's a nice surprise, and I want to share that with you. A little milestone for me. Oh, welding, yes. So like, what is it? The heat that did it? Is that the case? And just working on her hairline right now. So I just had a smoothie which was just purified water, frozen vegetables, no, frozen bananas and frozen strawberries. That came out pretty good. Something like that is really great for like energy brush, and I really enjoy that. Not too much, but something like that, like just before a live stream, is really good for me. Do you guys? Are you guys big fans of smoothies? Is that something that you do? So look at these beautiful, really beautiful fine lines we're able to get with the Extreme Patriot Arrow. So I have another person who actually went ahead from the live stream and got an Extreme Patriot Arrow this week. And I'll tell you, whenever I get a convert, they don't go back, you know. They use that almost, that actually always becomes their main brush, their main airbrush. Whenever someone goes ahead and tries, you know, with my recommendation to go with the Extreme Patriot Arrow, almost always that's the airbrush of choice. And so I'm really happy with it, you know. I'm really happy to recommend the airbrush because it does everything that I needed to do when it comes to fine detail. And I'm going to continue with the darker mixture right here. And we're going to, like I said, so let me just show you real fast what I mean. So let's blow her up over here. Well, not blow her up, but just to show you. Let's see if we can sharpen that up. So you see that line there? One of the best ways to get rid of a line like that is not to go crazy erasing always. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But if you have good aim and you can go adjacent to that dark line, you know, it's always better to add on than to take away when it comes to painting. So you see how we're getting rid of that dark line. Now, for me to say that I'm doing dagger strokes, when people tell you, oh, when you do this, when you're doing coverage, you're just doing dagger strokes back and forth. Now, Willie says, do I ever spray acrylics? Oh, yes, definitely. They're detailed brushes. The same way that I wouldn't use a custom micron for, using thick acrylics. The same thing, I wouldn't really do it with the Extreme Patriot Arrow. What I would do is I would use the, when I'm doing acrylics, I would use the Vega more, and I would use something like the Thayer and Chandler. The Thayer and Chandler and the Omni 4000 I really like for thicker acrylics, But, I feel if I am going to use acrylics with the Extreme Patriot Arrow, I would definitely thin them out a lot. And I think that's different, as I actually began my black and white journey about a year and a half ago, a lot of things have happened, and the reason why I did that was, one, it was a personal reason, but number two, I wanted to get a hold of the airbrush and learn what makes an airbrush tick. What I learned in that year and a half was that dilution is everything. That's going to make your life a lot easier, and that's important to make your life a lot easier. So I would never put thick acrylics in any airbrush without diluting them, because if you see how small that little passage is, and people wonder why their airbrushes are not performing like they should, well, it's the artist's fault by putting in those thick acrylics and not really thinning them down to the consistency of ink. And that's the difference, I feel. So you see, look at that, no more lines. So I think that's really important, and you see how we are getting much cleaner hair here. And over here, I'm keeping the overspray because the hair actually sort of has that aura about it. And then in here, let me see as far as what's going on with the negative shapes of her hair. Now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at it being very soft. So let's soften this up dramatically. Now what I do is, when I see a photograph that I like, I go into my Critter software, which is, to me, the best digital art software out there, by far. I mean, for me, I think it's geared for artists, it's made for artists. I don't like Photoshop, at all, and I don't like their payment structure, all that, and the way they do it, the subscription. I love Critter because it's totally free. Hey, Wendy, how you doing? Good to see ya. What are you cooking? And we're just going to soften up in between those hairs there, And when that dries, I'm going to come in with my mono eraser. And, oh, hamburgers are always good. Shrimp burgers are better. No, I'm just kidding. Hamburgers are amazing. I love hamburgers. Well, I don't eat hamburgers too often anymore because, you know, I'm trying to eat less meat. But I do love hamburgers. Now, one of the things I was talking with one of my students is that sometimes if you have a pink pearl, you can get much better hair patterns. So that's something to look into. Oh, Wendy's not eating it. Oh, that's good. Oh, you did a website for somebody. How cool. How nice of you. That's fantastic. So you see, by using a larger, which I really love, I think it's really great to use a larger. Let me just get rid of this picture here. It's in my way. Let's see, where is it? There we go. Okay, so as you see, with the pink pearl, you get a much better coverage when just working out larger patterns of light and dark. So definitely think about using the pink pearl. It's much better when if you have a larger surface area, and you can actually do a better job and get better gradations by using something like a pink pearl. And the pink pearl is really not expensive. If you don't have a pink pearl, you really should, because the pink pearl is very important when it comes to just being an artist. I mean, the pink pearl has so many uses. When I paint hair, I construct the hair. I don't paint individual hairs. I construct it slowly with the larger forms. And definitely I want it to be organic. As you can see with the pink pearl, it sort of blends more and feels better than going in there right away with the small. Remember, always work large to small. Don't go in there right away and try and get, no, I want you to work big, and then I want you to get those large shapes and then get the smaller shapes. Remember, that's how life is. You know, we have the large shape of a head, and then we have the smaller shape of a nose, and then we have the shape of the lips, and then we have the wrinkles on the lips. So it's always the larger shapes that are much more noble, and then the smaller shapes on top, which actually have to fall under the design of the larger shapes. So definitely get those larger shapes first. And that's what we're doing with the pink pearl right now. Oh, you never tried the pink pearl? They are fantastic. They're by Papermate. They're real inexpensive. Get like 2 or 3 and you'll really love them. It has the points on both ends, and also if you needed to go, you know, this whole surface area. It's very similar to the eraser that is on your pencil, around that grade. But look how I can just bring her hair out of the darkness here. We want detail, but not that much detail. If I went crazy with detail in her hair, it really would take away from my focus. And my focus is her mouth and lips. That's where I want you to really look. Yes, definitely. I remember having this, uh, not in high school, at the High School of Art and Design, they were really big, the pink pearls. But I had it when I was buying those Walter Forster books when I was a kid, like 15, at those small art stores that used to exist. This and the kneaded eraser were the two big ones. But I love the fact, and look how powerful it is. So use, why use this and not a kneaded eraser? Because the amount of pressure you can put down here, because it's solid and it's not too hard, so it's not going to tear into the surface. The kneaded eraser is very mushy, so when you press down, you're not going to have that solid structure to get in there. So that's why it's so, hey Brad, good to see you. How are you, sir? And so you see, just very softly, we are working in those hair. We're going to come back in with the Blackbeard wheat to get a little detail here. Why I use the Blackbeard wheat, I'm not a big fan of stencils of any kind, but in the hair it's important because no matter what we do, we're never going to get that organic look. And I just think it's just such a big win to use the Blackbeard wheat for the hair. I think that's important. So there we go. And just getting the main structure. I'm not thinking of individual hairs right now. I'm just looking at the larger shapes, and then we'll worry about the small shapes on top of it. And like I said, that pretty much is how you should approach every painting. Whether it's a barn, a woman's face, a mountain. You always want to get the large shapes first and then go in with the smaller shapes. That should be your mantra. You know, something like that. But notice, even in this light here, I want to exaggerate this light here. I can do it pretty strong with the pink pearl. And so, yeah, this is something I haven't used too much on the live streams, but I was playing with it earlier and just reminded me how great it is, so we're bringing it back. So in the airbrush world, they don't talk about the pink pearl too much. Well, I come out of the fine art world, so that's why you'll see things here that you don't normally see in the airbrush world. And that's cool. We all bring something different to the table, you know? So let's see. I have my darker mixture here. Oh, cool. Yeah, that is an old favorite, but you know what? It really, look how it did a job on that hair, though. You know, really a great tool. Because it's so solid and you have such leverage, you can really get in there and do wide swaths of erasing. And especially in the hair, that's where you're really gonna really feel a need for that. You're not gonna be using it in details and stuff like that, but you will be using it when you're erasing large areas. So let's just continue. So right now we are just playing dotting the I's and crossing the T's. That's what the final part of any of my live streams are. So I really enjoyed painting Amy Lee. I think she's so great. Such a talent. Something like this, I'm not really worried about anything like overspray because that kind of helps the situation, kind of gives the atmosphere I'm looking for. But in here, I don't want too much overspray. I'm going to come in with some dark accents later today, and then we'll come in with some really soft pastel. I believe this is a sennelier. And for those pastel painters, you know the difference between the different grades and how soft they are. The softer they are, the more pastel and more pigment that they actually unload onto the surface. Well, yes, and no, Wendy, you would do fine with that. And I think with the pink pearl, you know, it probably, if you have a, you know, a tendency to be a little rough, I think you would actually, it will actually serve you in this case. Okay, see how it comes dark here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in with the pink pearl. I remember one of my teachers used to say, "So class, when your mom asks you what you learned different today, you will say," and they always said that. And so what I'll say is, so my people, if someone asks you what you learned today, you say the pink pearl is really good for doing larger details, and getting the shapes for hair at the last stages of a painting. See here. So interesting thing happened when I mixed my inks, and like I said, my inks have been a product of something that I've been working on for over 11 years with the ink dilutions. I used to do the India inks as underpaintings, just using pen and ink style, not the airbrush. And I would do them as underpaintings for my pastels, and that was really great. And then when I started using the airbrush, it was to make the India ink underpaintings, you know, more subtle and more beautiful edges, because just pen and ink is kind of harsh, right? And so basically, I mix them, and over the years, it's been actual drops, right? So I was trying to do, I can do milliliters when it comes to how much water to put in, but when it comes to the drops, it has to be exact drops, not any kind of this many milliliters or what have you. So I find that any variation, slight variation, throws the ink mixtures totally off. So for me, I learned today that I had to throw away a large group of inks because the mixtures were off, because I was doing milliliters and not drops. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's so important to me that when you pick up my India inks and you have the light mixture, whether you bought it today or whatever, you know that light mixture is going to have the exact value and consistency every time. So like I said, I had to draw out a whole group of mixture today because it was just so off, and there was no way that I was going to ever be able to fix them. So I just chucked them. But you know, the inks are doing really well, and so many artists are just doing these amazing pieces of work with them, and that's making me very happy. And they're taking off in the UK. So those of you in the UK, if anyone's from the UK right now, I actually only charge $5 USD to ship to the UK. And don't ask me how I'm doing it, smoke, mirrors, I don't know. But what's really cool is that, you know, I'm offering that, and that's really exciting. So Willie says you need to paint an old woman to show the texture in the skin. You know, that one day I will, you know. It's not my genre, but you know, I really do enjoy, you know, the texture of the skin. Now remember, it's the texture of the skin is not achieved by using stencils. It's achieved by paying attention to the way that the light actually falls upon the chin. Not falls upon the skin, not the chin. Well, the chin, but not just the chin. So skin texture is achieved when you actually are paying attention to the subtle patchwork of what happens. Like remember, you have the large shape as the head, and then you have smaller shapes on top of smaller shapes on top of smaller shapes. That's called packed form or stacked form. And so that's one of the things like, hey, what's Chris? How you doing, Chris? How's everything? Chris purchased the Extreme Patriot Arrow, so he's belonging to the Extreme Patriot Arrow family, so that excites me. So I'm excited. And did you end up getting the compressor, sir? So I'm so glad you made it, Chris. And so I'm really liking the way the hair goes, and also now the thing is that this extends further than where the reference is. Reference stops right about here, and let's see. One of these days I will, Wendy, that's for sure. So what we'll do is we'll do like a fading effect here. And I think that's cool. Kind of give an air of mystery to Amy Lynn. Oh, that's amazing, sir. So remember, if you were ever wanted to go ahead and purchase the Extreme Patriot Arrow, the link's in the description. And always feel free to use my discount code for my live stream people. And the discount code is timothypsa, all lowercase, no spaces. I'll put that down right there. Okay, I'm going to take a little water break and say hello to everybody. Hope everyone is doing good so far. We're still in the hour 1 of the live stream. So today I would say the main gist of what I'm doing right now is trying to get atmosphere. I want to feel the air in the room, you know? And when we feel the air in the room, I think it adds to the story of the painting. And that's something I think is what I'm exploring now, is the story of the painting. And so, let's see. So if you were to purchase the Extreme Patriot Arrow, you would go to usaairsupply.com, usaairbrussupply.com, and then you would go to Airbrushes, and then from Airbrushes, here it is, the Extreme Patriot. Now, some people like the Extreme Patriot Arrow. It has the small cup, but for those of you who paint larger, you can definitely go with this airbrush, which is the Extreme Patriot, just the 105 Extreme Patriot. Everything inside is exactly the same. It's just it has the larger cup, of course. So you can even go to Airbrushes again, and I think if you were going to go, I think it's on the second page would be the extreme. No, I'm still on the first page further down. One of the things I like to do about this particular airbrush is I get rid of this trigger, and you can just purchase any of the triggers. They're like $4 or $5, and you can just take that trigger out, put a new one in. It's really pretty great. So definitely with the 15% off comes to much less with the, so it comes out to 90 something dollars. You really can't beat it. So really highly recommend that. Okay, so we're back to working on some of the atmosphere. Now when you're working, it's not always the airbrush. There's no points for working 100% in airbrush. There just isn't. So don't think that, guys. Yeah, you would not like the trigger, and I'll tell you why. Because it's quirky, and you know what? It causes more mistakes than it helps. 15% now, which is really great. So yeah, so I got a better discount with the code, so I'm really happy. So and I get to pass that on to you guys now, Willie. So I'm excited. So I just put some medium mixture in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to start to paint the hairs that are just outside right here. Let's start doing that. We might go to the dark mixture. It depends on how it works out here. Always when you're working, have a spare piece of paper just to get rid of the excess ink. You want sort of a dry brush technique. Now dry brush from my days in art school and learning about different mediums, when you dry brush you get much more control than if the brush was really wet. And you can do scumbling techniques, so many different things that really help out. Let me just move this back. We're going to come back in with some airbrush technique as well. So Chris said he bought the mini stencils. I heard that the price was really fantastic, right? I mean, was it something like $15? Am I correct with that price? Those mini stencils look good. As you guys know, I don't use the large stencils. This one's about 6 inches, so I don't use much more than that. There we go. Take your time, there's no rush. Even though this is part 5, we got plenty of time to finish this up. Steve-O, that's so cool. Steve's live streams are amazing. Monday nights at 6 on Facebook. Just really a lot of fun. His girlfriend is there, Marge, and just a really cool, loose atmosphere. A really good feeling I get from Steve Leahy's live streams. I just have to say, just a really, nice feeling, Positive vibes. My live streams are full of angst and turmoil. Not really, but $18.99, that's not bad. That's like a really good sandwich. So that's fantastic. When you get a really good sandwich, a drink and tips, comes out to about that anyway with tax. So you see, now we're just really getting a feeling of her hair and, sort of, like I said, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, that sort of thing. So my live streams have cake and coffee, yes. Always good to have coffee. Coffee is so important. Today was a 2 cup of coffee day. I definitely had no choice in that one. But I didn't have my second cup of coffee till much later. And then I had a smoothie, which was banana and strawberry with just some purified water, and that came out pretty good. So I'm actually incorporating more salads in my diet again. You know, the excuse that we have a pandemic is over, and now it's time for me to get back. I think the gyms are going to be opening up pretty soon in New Jersey. I think next week they're opening up in New York, so we should follow. Has anyone heard if the gyms are opening up in New Jersey? Today was a pot of coffee day, Wendy. Oh my God. You must have really had to, get some energy, huh? That's a strong day. That's for sure. Oh, 5 injections. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. Oh boy. We're going to use the crow quill as well, and we'll see how that goes. Now the crow quill I'm using actually was a gift from Speedball Inc. They sent that to me. That was really cool of them. They're a friend of the channel, Speedball Inc., as well as Badger's a very good friend. Very, very, very good friend of the channel. So we're a Badger family, I would have to say. I'm going to take this same and I'm just going to sort of scoop up some of that ink. And then I'm going to go with my pure ref and really, 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 really zoom in on my pure ref. And we're just going to get like ultra fine detail here. Like when we say hairlines, we're talking super hairlines. It's okay to do this once in a blue, just for accents, not something that you're going to make a big part of your painting, but for little parts I think it's pretty cool. Just little baby hairs. Little cute baby hairs. So Amy is a beautiful woman, and everyone knows that pretty much is my subject matter. Really don't veer off of that too often, but then again, that's what makes me me. So, it's all good in the hood, I say. Last ones lasted 3 years and refused to do them 5 months ago and caved. Oh, so you feel better? Is that true? That would be good if you feel better. I'm going to extend some of these hairs down just a little bit. Now they're part of her appearance, so that's why I'm doing those hairs. So have you guys used the crow quill? I know that Steve does, right? Steve uses them on his live stream, which is pretty cool. Like you say, I went to 8 years of art school. Yes, 8 years of art school. And just about every kind of supply I've used in those years. And I love to see, and Steve's live streams really get me going, because he reminds me of some of the tools I used in art school, like the drafting set with the mechanical pens that Steve had is just really, really cool. So I really enjoy them. Makes me want to go back to doing technical drawings again, like I had to in rotational at the High School of Art and Design. So very cool. Now we can use the crow quill throughout the painting if we want to get like really tight detail. Let's see. Now I have an advantage that I do have Pure Ref, and Pure Ref allows me to blow up my reference. There's a beautiful hard edge there, so I'm like, hey, why not? Oh, look at that. You see, Wendy? Chris thought it was a portrait of you. Yeah, these are great. And, you know, for the end, right? Steve, you don't want to be using these things in the beginning. And I know it's always a temptation to use these in the early going, isn't it, Steve? You know? Beautiful edges. Well, you have a lot of talent as well, Wendy, and everyone here can vouch for that. What you did with that portrait on Procreate, have you guys seen a portrait on Procreate? It's just fantastic. She's not holding a cake. Yes, I'm happy with your talents too. I think you have amazing talent there, Wendy. Now, interesting enough, her iris is super razor sharp. There we go. Just get that razor sharp look. Jack of all trades. You hear that? That's really nice. Chris says that Wendy's a real woman. I concur. Not gonna stick too long with this, but just to get some really fine detail. Remember, you know, you wanna use the best tool for the job. There we go, and I'm happy with that. And let's ask ourselves, before we put this tool away, is there anywhere where, oh, here's some nice little hairs along the cheek here. Some really thin hairs. We'll just pull them down. One going this way. Like I said, this is part 5. This is the last part, so it's just tying this down and just making it as beautiful as we can before we say, you know, it's done and we sign it. This piece, of course, is, you know, my work is always for sale if anyone's interested, whether it's recorded, you know, or live. Please let me know. You can always email me at paintinglyphs@gmail.com, or leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Okay, so here on the edge of the hair here, we have some little hairs going in and out. So what we can do is just bring them in. Remember, you want to do the 1 second rule. You don't want to you don't want to paint for a second without looking for a second first. The 1 second rule, that applies in the very beginning and the very end. That's a constant rule that whenever you're working, regardless, if you're doing a background and you're just spraying in the background, I want you to do the 1 second rule with the background. It's really important. It's really going to separate your work and elevate it to a new height, you know. So Willie says he can go by and help with Wendy. Just give him 3 or 4 days to get there. There we go. So I like to tell my students, those who studied with me or are studying with me, that, you know, it's good to do an 80-20 rule. Now the 80-20 rule is part of, you know, our rule of 80% of the most important work is the top 20% of your to-do list. 20% of your most productive people do 80% of the work. But 80-20 rule for me in airbrushing is that 80% of your work is to be done in airbrush, and then 20% can be done in anything else. And this is really liberating to those who are having trouble with detail, you know, that they don't have to go ahead and paint the eyelashes with their airbrush. They can go ahead and use something like this, or they can use their liner brush or something like that. If they need to do a little bit of color, why not use a little bit of pastel? Because you have that 20% window. And I think that is something that really will help a lot of people, you know? You want to put makeup on a portrait? That's funny. So we're just gonna do some just little hairs here and there, you know. That's cute. So, have you guys ever watched the show Skin Wars? I mean, I've been really enjoying that a lot. Just not so much, you know. I mean, the artwork is kind of iffy at best, right? But I do enjoy the use of the airbrush and how they stumble about it. They just have no idea how to use the airbrush. It's all Iwatas, no Badgers, and so Badger is actually sponsoring the show, one of the sponsors. But it's really a lot of fun to see creative people in the limelight and you know, making money, so I love that. Chris says, if you're in Jersey, Wendy, I'll come up and help you next week when I go see Tim. Actually, Wendy's in Texas. Oh, you may go to Virginia in October. So who's in Virginia? Is that a friend or family? There we go. So you see how we are just getting a sense of the hair. Now, I could definitely do all this with my airbrush, but part of it is I want to show you guys that you know, you don't have to be overwhelmed and do everything with the airbrush. I have my light mixture here, and what I'm going to do is I am going to work out a little bit of detail in her eye. I think I can go a little bit darker along the edge there. So let's make it bigger. Oh, at Baylor, cool. So along the edge here, it's a little bit darker. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking of the light coming from the upper left, so the lower right is going to have the shadow. As it turns slowly away from the light, the white of the eye, right? So you see how it just turns ever so slowly. But then as you go further down, you can see that the light goes away as the eyeball turns away from the actual light source, from the upper left-hand corner. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to be like sort of visual detectives, right? So you see that little thing right there? That is not, you can't see that through the naked eye, but when you blow it up, so don't worry about things like that when you blow it up, because you really can't see things like that in the naked eye. But we're going to do some eyelashes here. So you can see with the light mixture, I still can do some pretty cool. And as they say in Boston, Steve, do some wicked cool eyelashes. Is that correct, my friend? And let's go ahead and get out our white pastel, and we're just going to do some micro detail. Norfolk. Cool. Okay. So we're going to do some tight detail right here. There's this little dot of light. Not sure what's happening there, but it's just a dot, just a baby dot. There we go. And then over here, a little bit of water. Sometimes the Fons and Porter works. I think it worked this time. And let's see if we can just calmate, right? We just want to calm, tranquila. We want to calm down that light a little bit. Went a little crazy, right? We don't want to. So free beer. So free beer is always the best beer. That's for sure. I'm just going to. I want that eyeball to turn, right? It's important that it turns. And then in here, just a baby amount of light in the iris. Now that's a little harsh. I think sometimes using the Fons and Porter does not serve you 100% because it's a little harsh. And especially in the iris, I feel things are much softer. Okay, let's try this bad boy here. And let's I went to school in Suffolk County, Long Island. One of my many schools. There we go. So you see, just a little bit. I'm going to bring that light from the iris up. There we go. A little bit of texture here. Hey Mike, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. And let's pull out just a little bit. So look how, now we do have to smooth out a little bit because when we pull out, we see that things are not as smooth as we'd like, but that's okay. That's all part of it, my friends. You can use a kneaded eraser. Now the kneaded eraser, you can knead it into the slight tiniest of points, and you can use that as a blending stump as well. So let's make that happen. Now you can see it looks different from up close, and then when you pull back, there's definitely a different look. So you do have to at times smooth it out. And we're going to come back in with the white. Good to see you there, Mike S. How you feeling, sir? And I like lost and found edges. So we did lose that edge there on the other side of the iris. Okay, so now at this point of the game, we're in the final hour of the live stream, right? Final hour of this painting. I think a lot of people are watching the Democratic Convention or National Convention. So we don't have many people, but those who are here are meant to be here. So that makes me happy. So it doesn't matter how many people are here, just that the right people are here. Those who are meant to be here. Anyway, I would do this live stream if nobody was watching. So, it's a labor of love. I mean, those are the best ball players, right? The ones that would do it for free. Because you can just tell, they just love it. They're not into it for an agenda. Yeah, I like to make money. I have to make money to pay the rent and PSC&G and cable. I don't have cable, but I have internet. But okay, I'm all out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to come in with the dark mixture a little bit. And then we're going to do some Blackbeard wheat action over here. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to work on this area. And now it's sort of let's bring it all together kind of look. That's what we're really working on. Oh, so Mike got an MRI at the doc's office and forgot to file it for a month, doing okay. Oh, I hope you feel better, man. Always pulling for you. Yeah, you know, I'm not a big fan of politics myself, you know, Chris, so you kind of nailed it right on the head. Maybe I'm a bad... I vote, yes, but I don't, you know, that's why they have that, you know, that's why they have that little curtain when you vote, so, you know, it's a personal thing, you know. So I definitely am there with you, Chris, you know. So I have the dark mixture in right now. Hey, there you are, Mr. Todd, all the way from sunny San Diego. So you missed the Chargers, that the Chargers are gone, Todd. Is the city upset about that? Are they coming back? Is that true? I heard something that they're building a stadium there. Is that? I'm not sure. So right now, this is basically clean up, making this painting beautiful. Stage. Wherever we're ignoring, we have to make sure that we really pay close attention. I'm going to soften up this edge right here of her chin. It's really soft, and I think if we soften it up, it's really going to help with the likeness of Amy. we go. It's funny, every painting, there's always paintings that go easy, and there's some paintings that it just is a struggle in the early going. And this was one of those paintings that in the early going I was really sort of not panicking, but saying to myself, wow, this is not an easy one. But that happens to us all, right? You always have those paintings where everything flows, and then those paintings are like, how am I going to pull this off? This was definitely one of them. Oh no, so the Chargers were losers. Oh no. That's funny. Yeah, they definitely did not play to their potential over the years. They did make it to the Super Bowl, but they got destroyed, right? Was it the Cowboys that killed them? I think so. Wow, I can understand that, but after going to the doctor's office, it's okay to kick back a little bit there, Mike, so don't worry about it. You just relax and hang out with us at the live stream, and I'm glad you're feeling no pain. That's the best. Cowboys, we got a Cowboys fan in the house, huh? Look at that. That's pretty cool. Cowboys are not too popular here in New York. Actually, I can see the Empire State Building from one window, and the other window I can see MetLife Stadium where the Giants and the Jets play. So this is not cowboy country. I like the I like the Giants because of my dad and brother. They were big Giants fans. So out of love for them, I root for the Giants. But I always like to see the Cowboys win. But you know what? I used to be a big Cowboys fan. Big is one of the biggest Cowboy fans until I was 16 years old. You know what happened at 16? They went ahead and fired Tom Landry. And when they did that, I said to myself, not until Jerry Jones sells the team will I ever be a Cowboys fan. So I'm waiting for him to sell the team, and then I'll go back. But right now I'm a Falcons fan. Either are the Jets. Yeah, so you like the Jets, Todd? How about you, Chris? Who do you root for over there? Are you a Pats fan? Well, I know that Willie's a Pats fan up there in New England, and I also know that Steve Leahy is a Pats fan. Has to be. I don't think you have a choice, right? Yeah, well, Jerry Jones made a business decision, but that business decision cost him a very, very loyal fan since I was a tiny little boy. Loved Roger Staubach and Tom Landry and Tony Dorsett and Robert Newhouse and Drew Pearson, Preston Pearson, all those cats. Hollywood Henderson. I was big as a kid, big fan. Oh, not into sports. That's good. That's less you got to worry about, right? When I was a kid, that's what we all did, Sports, sports, sports. So go Denver, the Broncos. Very cool. So my guess says actually a lot better at drinking now, he says, than I was 12 years ago. He used to pound down anywhere from 30 to 50 beers a night. Wow, all those bubbles. Holy cow. I would be, oh man, that's something. So Todd and Brad's not a big fan, So Brad, after this live stream, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and uh, load up your digital tablet. So we'll take care of you. Following this live stream, we'll do a Google Hangout. So I have the dark mixture in here. So with the dark mixture, you don't have the control that you normally do with the lighter mixture. You have control, but it just seems like it's playing more for keeps. And full contact mixed martial arts, oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I could have the most, like, as far as I go, as just my body goes, I can have a pint of Boddingtons, maybe a second one, but after that, I'm done for the night. I'm Irish, but I'm a lightweight when it comes to drinking. I mean, not as far as, getting intoxicated, but just the fact of the bubbles, all those bubbles in my body. So not into football, hockey fan, Bruins, yes. Ray Bork, right? So I know you know who Ray Bork is, my friend. All big shapes, working in big shapes. Next portrait can be Wendy in a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. That would be cool, Wendy. Are you down to posing for that? Wendy says not. Uh-oh. That were all caps, too, so that's not happening. Uh-oh. I just want to continue, get these lights to sort of have a continuity that will lead you to the corner of her mouth. That's what I want to do. And then we always can go back to our kneaded eraser. Oh, then said maybe. Okay, cool. That's funny. Wendy retracted her statement. Oh, yeah, Procreate is best. I love Procreate. But I'm a real, as everyone knows who knows me, I'm a real Critter fan. I'm waiting for Critter to come onto the iPad because right now I just need Critter on the iPad, but no one's listening to me. Why aren't they listening to me? I need it. I want it. Okay, so we're going to come in and we're going to start. Does that mean you don't want me to bring... Oh, man. No, I love Coquito, man. Definitely. Those of you Puerto Ricanos out there, you know what Coquito is. Coquito! Coquito is... sabroso, right? It's just amazing. Oh, apple moonshine sounds amazing, especially with the autumn coming. Now, is the apple moonshine better with the apple picking season and everything like that, Chris? Now, what we're going to do is we are going to smooth out some of these areas in her face, And we're not going to stay there too long, but just now you see that the application was a little overzealous right there, and we could go there. Look at that. So here I am thinking that I was gonna have like an hour left. It just seems like there's always something to do when we're painting. Am I right or am I wrong? There's always something to do. You know, you can never like say, the painting's done. You always abandon it to some extent. Do you guys and girls agree to that statement? Yes, definitely. I like apple picking, but that's not something someone can do as a single guy, you know? All the families are there and you're there by yourself with your bag going apple picking. It just seems very strange. That's more like a family thing, so, you know, I won't go apple picking, but I do love it, you know? But it's not a single dude's kind of endeavor. But there's good apple picking right up Route 80 in northwest New Jersey. Oh, how cool. That's very cool. So that's a pretty neat there, Wendy. Apple moonshine goes great with painting. That's great to hear. Look at that. And so that's what we're doing right now. But we're not just smoothing things out. I'm really looking at the reference. And like we were talking before, there are shapes on top of larger shapes. And right here, the lips going into the cheek causes a bulge in the cheek at the corner of the lips. You want to treat that as an individual shape. And by treating it as an individual shape, you're really going to be forced to make it turn. Now, what happens is when you have one shape and you're making it turn, especially when it's packed form or stacked form, the shape comes and goes on top of the larger form. And right next to one form is another form. So the bulge in the cheek, you know, it bends down, so it's darkest where the lips sort of go into the actual cheek, and then as it comes out, it creates a light on the form which is underneath the lip, and we want to bring that form down. Now another thing is that, you know, you do have this dark here. Now I'm going to bring my light mixture. We do have this dark, right, as it turns. But then it only works because if we don't stop that dark, it's going to look kind of weird. But it only works because there's another adjacent shape, a shape right next to it, that causes the dimension of one shape to be defined. It is a patchwork. It is a fabric, and you want to feel that. So okay, so we have the dark of the indentation of where the cheek and the lips go in, and then right next to it is a adjacent shape to the top. Okay, so we want to continue that adjacent shape as we go higher. Well, that's only going to work if we get the adjacent shape to this shape over here. Same thing over here. this sort of ripple all the way down into this turning of the large form of the jaw. And then we have the zygomatic arch coming down. Remember, you want to use your airbrush to do the heavy lifting. So if I'm doing the zygomatic arch here, and it's really dark over here, but then it lightens up. So the best way is just increase your distance, even more to get a real soft light. You know what I mean? And a really wonderful gradation. So you have all these shapes. So you have the zygomatic arch coming down, you have the turning of the jawline over here, and then there's a bulging of the skin and muscle right here, starting a new form. And so we want to go ahead and just create this form next to it. And I know we started doing this last week, so we definitely are going to refine this. Like I said, this is the last hour. Make it count. And soften up some of these edges here. And also we can bring in, so you see you have some of the larger forms and you can see how it turns towards the light. And you can do that by making the light broken, because her cheek is not smooth like a fender on a car. Her cheek is, really matte and rough in comparison. I'm sure she has a beautiful soft cheek. But you see, when we define these shapes, these minor shapes or minor forms on top of the larger forms, things really start to work out. And then we can bring in, we can actually use some of the, we can actually use the paper underneath by using the eraser to establish some of the darks a little bit. We don't always have to use the airbrush. We can use everything, the paper underneath. And it's easy to get overzealous here, so continue. I'm going to let that dry because I am going to adjust that, but you want to let it dry. You don't want to erase wet paper. That's a disaster. So there's little shapes on top of larger shapes, little forms on top of bigger forms. So there are, like, the way the lip ridges up and is facing the light more directly, just on top of the lip, and you're going to see a stronger light. And so you definitely want to express that. And what that's going to do is just, make her just come out a little bit more. My guess says, Tim, can you mix the white with the black to tone down the white for the highlights? Or no, you definitely don't want to do that. This technique is very much an transparent technique. And then coming in with the pastel, you're able to add whites without having any problems with blue shift. But that's not the reason why I do it. I used to do a very similar technique with pencil on toned paper with white pastel for the highlights. And I worked for 10 years at Amazon, and I would travel an hour and 15 minutes each way. I would spend my time doing drawings like that on the train, and it was the only way that I felt productive and also, and used the time wisely. So regardless of whatever happened, how hard I worked during the day, at least I got 3 hours in. I'm an artist where it's important for me to get the hours in. So that's really crucial. So if I had to have a part-time job to make ends meet, I was going to make sure I was going to get my hours of art time regardless. So the technique with the white pastel is because I used to do it with pencil. So when I stopped working at that place, it got to the point where I was airbrushing more, and then I said to myself, what if I used India ink like pencil? What would that be like? And voila, this is how this technique is born. I don't like the way the white's looking. It's looking a little messy, so I'm just going to tap that. And with the kneaded eraser, you can just tap it ever so slightly. There we go. And you see how strong that is? That has to tone down. And we can do that by tapping. Now, I'm a pastel painter, since the 80s. And I studied with the most amazing pastel painter of our time, Harvey Dinnerstein. And so, my technique with pastel comes from a lot of knowledge. I can manipulate pastel like nobody's business. So that's why I use pastel. Because of the ability to manipulate it is, it's one thing to use pastel, but to make it do exactly what you want to do, that's another thing. So, I personally, why would I use, any kind of, airbrush white at this point when this is just so much more effective. And I could, manipulate it so much better than any other medium. And much better than many people who are using the medium today. That's my stripper. No, I think somebody sent me a message. Probably a woman telling me to leave them alone. Let's see. And oh, well, I assure you, I always stay within the range of the photo, Mike. That's important. You never want to. John Augusto Dominique Angra, whose birthday is coming up, said that you want to use white as sparingly as ultramarine blue. And you know what? Angra is my mentor. Born 1780, lived to 1862. But he's my mentor. And it's true, you want to use white as sparingly as ultramarine. You can go too far, but that's something I'm very aware of. You don't want to go too far with white, but you want to use enough white to make the forms turn. That's so important. So that's where we are, making those forms turn. And you can see like places where I got a little overzealous with the airbrush here, and then we can come in here and soften that up. get some real beautiful edges. Do a whole painting with ultramarine blue? That would be one cold painting. So Brad says at the end of the day, I am confident that I can fix any little faux pas with white pastel. Well, I wouldn't want to say fix it. What I would really want to say was just polish it up, you know? Because the thing is, white pastel is really the icing on the cake, but not just icing, because it's also cake itself, because it's really adding form and content to the work, right? It's not an afterthought or something that comes to as a cleanup. It's a real part of the artwork, to the point where everything is setting up to it. So I hope that helps. And it's real sharp here. So there are areas where, you know, it might not be turning as much. So it's not, so what I'm using the white pastel for is getting rid of any airbrush that does not belong when it comes to the turning of the form, right? We want these forms to turn. And that's when we use the airbrush, the white pastel. But everything has been set up for the white pastel. The white pastel is coming because all the airbrushing in parts 1 to 4 is basically for this moment. So ultramarine blue, that's an interesting, it's very powerful blue. And you know what, you put a little tiny bit on your palette and you won't need much more of that. Okay, so we're in the last half hour. This is going to be a quick show and tell. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Have coffee talk or what have you. Be right back. So those of you who have been with me a long time, you know that it's been an exploration with the India inks and the airbrush, doing things that nobody has been doing before, and trying to put what we do and what we love as, you know, more mainstream, right? So I'm going to put the beautiful Amy Lynn over here, right? So this month, I believe it's the July-September issue of Airbrush Step by Step. So we are going to look through this, and I have a surprise for my peeps. Oh, I guess I'm not in here. Oh, look at that, guys. Something's cool. Look at that. So this is my first full article. This is a painting of Soraya step by step in Airbrush Step by Step magazine. And so it's really neat. I wrote the whole thing myself. And let me just darken it a little bit. There we go, so you can see more detail. And it goes from beginning to end about the use of the India inks, you know, and the materials that we use here on the live stream, which is really very cool. And then we have, you know, step by step, how we use the pencil in the beginning, right? And then the white that we do. In this painting, I used mostly the Extreme Patriot Arrow, but for the white, I used the Sotar 2020. And just goes over everything from the very beginning. Just has how we go very light, right? Using the light mixture, and then you know, using the medium mixture, and then how we use the the frisket when we need it, which is really good, right? And then we go into the dark mixture, removing the frisket. And so no one has seen this painting before. I didn't tell anyone about the painting. And then, so this is the painting, and this is the beautiful Soraya. And so that's a picture of me, and then a little blurb about me and how crazy I am and everything like that. So even I go over the pastel, which is really cool, you know? So that's, if you do see this, or you can actually purchase it, I believe Airbrush Step by Step Magazine's website, you can purchase it. But for those guys, you know, my peeps, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and, you know, thank you for your support. You know, remember when it was just a few of us, right? And, you know, when I first did India ink, the whole consensus was you can't do airbrush in India ink. That was the whole consensus. And so we're tearing it apart, right? We're tearing it apart and put it back together and painting and doing things that people thought were not possible. India inks are not for airbrush. It's bad for the airbrush, all that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so basically, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wendy and Chris and Mike for the congrats there. I really appreciate it. Thank you there, Todd. And it's just really very cool, you know. So, you know, it's nice, right? It's nice to get a little recognition, but we still have to work our butts off. We still have to study. We have to kick butt. So back to work, right? So as you can see, I have Amy here. We're gonna go ahead and that's a little too bubbly here on the cheek there. And let's put some brightness in Amy's face. There we go. I really like the drama in this because Amy is a very, thoughtful, emotional singer. So my thought process going into this was to really accentuate that. So another thing I want to talk about is we're not just painting photographs, right? Otherwise, we're just recreating photographs. And what's so big about that? It's cool, but is it art? That's the question. But now with the advent of digital art, we can go ahead and change things to our benefit and to help us to create art that is more emotional, more about what we want to say. So I am going to show you guys what this painting, the photo I used from the very beginning of what the original web image was. So let's go here and we'll go to media files. Okay, so look how cool this is. You're gonna be surprised. So this was the original photo that I was working from. So you can see it's very different than what I have. And it's important that I show you because when you see my work from the image that I wanted, the kind of angst and the kind of mood that I wanted from the painting that I wanted to do, I had to go ahead and manipulate that on Krita, which is a free Photoshop type software, which I really love. So remember, whether you have the, like in the Soraya painting, whether you take the photo from the model and work from that, or if you're working from life, or if you are, you know, working from a photo that you find on the internet, you always, always, always want to go ahead and manipulate that in Photoshop. Change the edges, make it darker, lighter, create a stronger mood, that sort of thing. So remember, you want it to be yours as much as possible. It's very important, okay? Wow, you never seen Amy Lynn, Evanescence? She's really great. I think you'll love her music. Really fantastic. And, okay, so we are in the final stages of this painting here. Like I said, this painting is for sale, which is great. I'm sure there are Evanescence fans out there. I'm not sure what the subscription price is of that magazine. I'm not sure. That's funny there, Todd. There we go. And like I said, we're in the home stretch here. So let's make it work. So thank you guys for the kudos, Chris and everybody. I appreciate it. If you can't share with your friends, what good is success? But that's a little baby success. That's not success. Right here, the light is coming from the upper left, so that means the upper left of the painting, the upper left of forms are going to actually receive the most light. So we want to make sure that we translate that onto all the forms that are receiving the most light, that are facing the upper left. Chris says, interesting, do any of the celebrities that I purchased, do any of them own my art? I have to say no, not yet. But hopefully one day, Chris, that's what I'm hoping, you know. Oh, you're buying that? Thank you, my friend. That's really great. I appreciate that. Thanks, Chris. Oh, okay. So right now we're just trying to get. Let's see. I would say that Amy Lynn is more of like a goth type of person, you know. But definitely check out her music. I think you'll really love it. Really good. My Immortal is my favorite song. I think most people's favorite song of Evanescence. I also like Good Enough and Broken. Just amazing. They never get old. The songs. I mean, they're just so powerful. And that's what I hope my artwork to be. I know in a small way. You know, but she wouldn't be, yeah, she definitely is goth, that's for sure. Not emo, though. But very, yeah, definitely goth, Wendy. So I'm making it work. Make it work, people. Remember that, Project Runway? So I finished a portrait commission, and I'm just finishing up a landscape commission that's going to be done tonight, and that's good. So I'm going to be without commissions on the easel. So if anyone's interested, let me know, because you would be in front of the line right now. There are some people, you know, some sharks in the water right now, thinking about a commission. So if you have one in mind, now's the time. So the brand of pastel, for the most part, the bulk of it is Pit Pastel. Pit Pastel is by Faber-Castell. It's a medium pastel pencil. These retail for about $2 at Dick Blick, so they're really good. They work well. However, we're getting close to the end, aren't we, guys? I like to add punch to my paintings, right? So all pastels are not created equal. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the pastel. This is a soft pastel, and I believe the brand is Sennelier. They're handmade from France, and you see that, look at that, pow, right? Really strong. So they're much more powerful. Okay, so why is this pastel so much stronger than the pastel that I'm using, the Pit Pastel? Because it's softer. When more pigment, less binder, and what it does, it creates a deposit of more straight pigment onto the surface, and that's what you want. And so we're going to, Willie's has to sleep. So you're very welcome, Willie. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the congrats, my friend. It's a little thing, but it's nice. It's one rung on the ladder, right? I'm just going to put a little bit of white and just see how it works, right? Let's just do that. Let's just put that in. If we need to calm it down a little bit, we definitely can. And let's add some dimension to her lips here. Let's give it a little bit of life. Just a little bit. And then we can come back with our super white. And we can use the, oh, thanks, Todd. Todd talked about the giraffe I was working on with my students, so that's cool. Gonna tap off just a little bit. There we go. And let's see, I just want to connect her lip just a little bit, go a little bit higher. Connect that light. Okay, and then we can just create a little variation of shape here. Okay. Alright, so that's cool. That's a little strong. So I'm looking at that. It's a little strong. So with pastel, you can just slowly tap it, and that's just how it kind of calms it down. See that? You can just tap it and just calm things. And then we can come here and we can just slowly have this sort of move into the shadow a little bit more. So we're at 11:20. We got like 10 more minutes. And okay, freehand shield. Well, the freehand shield, this is more like a freehand shield dash stencil at the same time. And so this is called Blackbeard Wheat. I did have some just before, and now I'm having trouble locating it. But I always have more in the closet. But okay, here it is on the floor, underneath all my magnets. Okay, so here's my Blackbeard Wheat, and I'm going to take my dark mixture, and what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and get some organic hair strands. This is the closest to me using a stencil ever. But like I said, you want to, it's the best way to get organic hair, you know. So we did the large forms, and now it's just working on the smaller forms. There we go. Go, and same thing. And I'm gonna just continue some of those shapes real fast. There we go. So you see, in these forms, I'm able to get the details, but you know, the important thing is to really see the large forms. I'll tell you one thing, I wouldn't turn down Amy Lynn, that's for sure. I think she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. But that's only my humble opinion. So that white there, although it was really nice, it just wasn't true to form. Okay, so So you see how things are starting to turn, and this is the end of the, this is definitely the end of the painting. But you see how things turn, and thanks, Wendy, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And then, you know, we are in the final minutes, so let's go ahead and work on her shoulder here. So her shoulder is coming forward. Our job is, don't forget, yes, exactly it, Chris. So right here, we're going to make that shoulder. We have to make that shoulder come forward. That's important because it is forward, right? So it's always important. we're just going to turn his shoulder. So you see, we are working with pastel and working in ink, but we're thinking like an oil painter. We're thinking like Gian Agostino Ganga, like Rembrandt, like Vermeer. That's what we're thinking like. So I want that shoulder to come forward like if I was using oil paints and a big fat filbert brush, right? I want to feel like I'm using this brush. And that's why we work big and we go small. We work big to small. And we want to feel like, you know, like what if the old masters were using airbrush and India ink? This is not a Flaming Skulls class. This is a class of fine art using the airbrush. It's an elevated level, I feel. And, you know, that's what I bring to the table. You know, I was blessed with a very classical education. So you guys benefit from that. My students benefit from that, of getting that, you know, that knowledge that I gained. So look how I brought that shoulder forward, right? Look how that comes forward. And look how... Thanks so much there, Todd. I appreciate it. Have a great night, sir. So like I said, this is as if I was working, you know, so let's see. I'm just going to put some more light as it comes in, just sneaks in from her shoulder, from her hair, right? Oh, that's nice to say. Yes, Wendy's very attractive. That's for sure. And so let's come over here. And so we are at 11:28. What we can do, let's see if we can just add a little bit of amount of pastel to create a little bit of light, reflected light touching this shoulder, right? Just a little bit of reflected light is touching her shoulder. And that's what we're doing. A little bit of reflected light here. See that? Little reflected light. Because light is bouncing around, right? And with the 1 second rule, you're going to feel that reflected light. You're going to want to paint that reflected light. Take care there, Brad. It's always good to see you, and I appreciate it, sir. So 11:29, guys. We got one more minute, and then we will see you next week, God willing. And there we go. So you see how we have the reflected light going there? Very important. It is 11:30, so that means the bell has rung and it tolls for me. I hope you have a great night, guys. Thank you so much. This is basically Amy right now. From beginning to end, this was in 5 parts. Sometimes they go longer, sometimes shorter. This one went pretty quick. I did work a little bit on it off camera, you know, trying to get some of the subtleties and everything like that. Thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It means more to me than you know. Was not many people today. I think they were all watching the Democratic National Convention or something like that. That's how much I know about it. But I hope you guys are well and take good care. And once again, this painting is for sale.